I'm Amy Rose White, integrative psychotherapist. Thanks for being with me today. I want to talk about how to meditate in the easiest possible way during chaotic times. I personally have been an on-again, off-again meditator since I was 16 years old, and I have found it to be very difficult lately, just with all the energies and distractions in the world and things to worry about and all of the intersecting thoughts that tend to come when we are still and quiet, despite the fact that meditation is so enormously helpful, beneficial for us, and an incredibly important skill when it comes to long-term happiness with ourselves and our lives and in our relationships. And the reason for that is most things go sideways at work, with friends and colleagues, with our kids, with our partners, when we have an immediate emotional reaction and we either shut down or lash out in that response. That is a very normal human response and part of our human condition, I think. And it can also be reflective of early attachment injuries and trauma, which many of us also have. This video isn't about that as much as it is honoring the fact that the practice of meditation can be enormously helpful in our ability to connect to what is happening in the body, stay in the present moment, and not react or shut down in ways that negatively affect our lives and our relationships. I personally feel that that's the number one benefit of meditation. Now, I won't go into the literature, but we also see that the research indicates that folks that meditate simply have lower cortisol levels, lower stress levels, better quality of life, lower pain. There's even some positive correlations between meditation and the impact of disease processes. So this is all really exciting, wonderful things to consider, but how the heck do you do it? And how the heck do you do it when you're going through a crisis or the world is in a particular state of disarray as it is right now? How can we simplify the process without abandoning the practice altogether? So let's dive in. First of all, I want to dispel a couple major myths about meditation. Many of us shy away from doing it, myself included, because I have such a busy brain. I am always thinking, some might call it obsessing, on, they shan't be named. I'm thinking, dreaming ideas, thinking about a past memory. I try to make sure that those are positive memories that I'm dwelling on, but I'm just constantly analyzing. This is this Virgo sun brain of mine, and I have an Aries rising, so I'm always trying to figure out the next step and plan and get going. So sitting still and listening is not necessarily in my nature. And a lot of us think, if you can relate to that at all, we think, well, meditation is just not for me. I can't do it. I can't just sit, for 20 minutes or an hour, and be a Buddha on a mountain top and have no thoughts enter my mind. Okay, that is not what meditation is. That's the good news here. Meditation is simply present moment awareness. If you happen to not be distracted right now and you're really listening to the sound of my voice, you are actually in a state of meditation right now. You're simply focused on what's happening in this moment. And I often tell clients that I think one of the reasons I became a therapist was to help heal that part of me that is so easily distracted away from the present moment, from my own bodily sensations. And I can't be of service to people if I'm a million miles away in my mind and body and spirit. So having a person in front of me, or these days on the computer, it forces me to slow my breathing down, to attend to the details of what's happening to somebody else, within someone else, to listen deeply to their story. So in one sense, meditation is really paying attention to you for a few minutes. If you do 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of focused present moment awareness in your life each day, You will radically change your life. You will change the way you feel in stressful situations. You'll change the way you show up in your relationships. I promise you. And I can tell when I haven't been meditating because the practice maybe softens a little bit and I just notice that I'm kind of feeling more frenetic and snappy and irritable. And when I bring that practice back into my life, and again, we're going to talk about some ways that doesn't necessitate a dark room with no distractions, and sitting like this for 30 minutes or an hour. When I find that I bring myself back to that practice, again, my nervous system decompresses and I'm able to show up differently in the world, and it doesn't take a lot. So here are the primary elements of meditation that make it easier than you might think. One is simply, I'm sure you've heard this, an awareness of the breath. So when we sit, and I actually prefer that word to meditation because it's so loaded, the word of meditation. But when we sit, and again, you can do this while you're standing or running or walking. There's a million ways to meditate. But for our purposes today, I'm going to talk about sitting meditation. So when we sit, let's say just for a few moments, the first step is to just simply become aware of the breath. In, out. If you can breathe through your nose, if that's uncomfortable to you for any reason, breathe through your mouth. Feeling the sensation of oxygen going in through your nose and out through your nose. Notice that you can actually feel the breath in your nasal cavity, in your throat, noticing where it goes down into the body. So if all you did was say, so this is step one, this is the number one simplest way to meditate. You breathe, you focus on your breathing, and you say to yourself, breathing. Breathing. So that's just repeating. And then you'll start thinking about what you had for dinner last night and the errands that you need to run, because that is the job of the mind. The job of the mind is to search for problems and solve them and search for solutions. The mind doesn't do anything wrong. We're not trying to get rid of thoughts. We're not trying to get rid of the mind. We're simply using meditation to recognize we are not our minds. We are something greater than that. We are aligned with the part of us that one could call wise mind, or our highest self, or the witness. And the reason why meditation heals our relationships is we recognize that our ego and our mind are involved in the relationships, not so much the wise mind and the witness. There is an observer that sees. This is my observing mind or observing witness. There's an observer that can watch us thinking. That is a peaceful energy. It's a peaceful place. It's a place of calm and equanimity. And don't we all want more of that in our lives? So that's the whole point, is to simply cultivate the practice of observing the one who is breathing and then thinking. And so that's what you do. When you notice that you're thinking, you won't catch it at first because you're thinking about your grocery list or someone that you got into an argument with recently. And once you notice, because you will eventually, with love and gentleness and compassion, I want you to simply say, oh, thinking. Breathing. So basically, the simplest form of meditation is to simply go back and forth in noticing when you are breathing and when you're more noticing that you're thinking. Breathing, thinking. Oh, I'm breathing. Oh, now I'm thinking. It's really that simple. And it might drive you nuts, especially those of you who are perfectionists. Yeah, especially if you've got any Virgo in your chart, you're going to want to get it right. You're going to want to do it right the first time, or a strong Pluto in your chart. You're going to want to do it perfectly. Well, there is no perfection. There is no destination. That's why this practice is also a very healing ointment for perfectionism, toxic perfectionism, which I would argue kind of all of it is, because there is no perfect. It's just a practice. And ultimately, it's a practice of loving ourselves more deeply with what is right now, who we are right now, how we are showing up right now, with the pain in our back or an ouch in our knee or an itch in our eye. Because ultimately, if we can notice what is happening and bring our awareness back to the present, the discomforts kind of fade away. We don't die. The ego mind wants us to say, you better itch that right now. Get that out of your eye, because you can't handle discomfort. And meditation teaches us, yes, we can. And discomfort is temporary. It's transitory. So again, the very first, most simple way to meditate is breathing, thinking. Do that 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, building up to 20 if you have it. If you are a very busy person with lots of responsibilities, perhaps you have a bunch of kids running around. If you do this for 3 to 5 minutes a day, it is enough. I'm telling you it is, because it will start to translate to little other moments while you're changing someone's diaper, while you are on the phone with someone, you realize that you haven't been listening really, and you start to pay attention during a work call or even a Zoom meeting. It translates. It's about little practice over time. Now, a little more advanced steps that I think would be helpful, especially if you're finding what I'm describing too difficult, is to then notice the body sensations and just focus on them without inviting them to shift, or I should say demanding. Now, if I'm really uncomfortable, like I am getting a big pain in my hip flexor, because I actually meditate in a position where I'm going to be very comfortable. I don't try to contort myself in a way that I'm going to be uncomfortable. And my hip flexors are too tight to sit cross-legged and meditate. That's just how I'm built. So I don't sit that way. I have a little meditation bench, or I sit on my couch in my living room. And I try to keep my spine erect, up and down, to let that energy flow up and down. But I don't make myself uncomfortable on purpose or tell myself I have to endure it. So the body awareness is simply just it's another way of getting present. And this is another tool that translates into your life. Notice what's happening in the body. Next, focus on a sound. Right now, there is a windy storm blowing in to where I live, and there's a lilac tree on the window outside the room where I produce videos, and it is scraping against the window. I'm not going to be able to edit that out, so I'm hoping that it's not distracting you. But if I was meditating right now, I would actually listen to that sound. Earlier, my wind chimes were going on as I was about to start this video, and I thought, should I go out there and take them off? But that sound is actually a good example of something I would simply focus on. I'd focus on the sound. Why? Because it's happening right now. My thoughts aren't real. They're just thoughts. But what's happening right now is there's these sounds happening. So focus on the sound. Focus on the breath to review. Focus on body awareness. Focus on sounds. And then if your brain needs some bonus activities to engage in, and if I am really overwhelmed in life, I definitely bring all these on. And I should say, actually, I take that back. This helps if you're overwhelmed and having a hard time focusing. It's also really important for those of us that are super visual people, which I absolutely am. So another video, I'll talk about open eye meditation. But again, I'm talking about sitting closed-eyed meditation today, if I didn't mention that earlier. When my eyes are closed, I will choose to imagine a scene or an image that is peaceful and calming. So it might be that of a spiritual teacher in my life, or someone I love, or a beautiful place that I've been. I actually went to a meditation intensive a few years ago that had a profound impact on me. And when I meditate, and we meditated for a long time, hours at a time, in a large hall next to fellow meditators, and I imagined myself back in the exact seat that I was in. This is maybe 5 years ago, I still use the image of being in that hall. I can actually feel it in my body right now. I use that image to bring that state back into my body. And that's why meditating for short periods of time works, because the brain loves to make powerful associations with states of trauma and pain and agony, as well as states of calm and peace and equanimity. It just likes to make associations, period. And what will grow in your brain wiring and your associations is where you put the most focus, where you put the most attention. So I find myself replaying painful scenarios often in my head. And I know that that doesn't serve me. So that's why I try to move to these more peaceful, helpful, loving scenarios, and I choose to focus there. But it's a practice for me. I have to use my will because my automatic habit that probably started in childhood is to try to reconcile in my mind a painful, hurtful incident or conversation or something that doesn't feel good or didn't turn out well, rather than what is working. So that's another reason why invoking positive imagery during meditation helps for those of us who are visual, because the brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, and it will create the endorphins and neuropeptides in your body as if you were in that calm, loving, peaceful, happy environment. So I like to add that. Lastly, a few bonus props and tips. I like to use mala beads or japa beads. These have 108 beads on them. That has a spiritual significance in yogic tradition. You can use them for a variety of ways. There's a lot of beautiful gemstone mala beads out there. These are rose quartz, so I like to use these, especially when I am working to increase my connection to my own self-love. You can have a mantra. I'm not discussing mantras today in detail, but if you have a word or phrase or mantra that resonates for you, it might be I am love or I am safe. It might be the word peace. It might be a Sanskrit mantra that really resonates for you. I know Aham Prema is a very popular and simple I am love in Sanskrit mantra meditation. And what you do is maybe other people are just holding them as they go along, but when I use japa beads, because I'm a fidgety person, I do this. So you say the mantra while you say each bead. While you touch each bead. I'm in Mercury retrograde shadow right now. Mercury is my ruler, and even though Mercury just left retrograde, it is really affecting me today, I can tell. So in any case, you repeat the mantra as you touch each bead and however you want. Another really simple way of using, and you can use anything, it doesn't have to be a fancy japa bead or mala bead, is to simply breathe in one bead, move your hand, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Or in and out is one breath. Get creative. You can use this however it works best for you. That's the point, is to just find what works for you. And who cares what anybody else is doing, or how anybody else is meditating, or how long anyone else is meditating. This is about a practice that serves you. My other favorite prop is to use my shawl, my meditation shawl. So I know this will sound extremely woo-woo, but it works. If you use something on a regular basis when you are meditating, the energies of that quiet state get into the fabric. And it is said, this is a yogic tradition, that then when you don that apparel, it again just makes it that much easier to drop into that state of breathing, thinking, breathing, thinking, coming back to breathing. Another prop that people like to use is a meditation mat or a blanket or a shawl or something that they put underneath their body if they're going to be on the ground in some way. So I hope that is helpful for you. I hope that it gets you thinking about some different, hopefully simpler ways. I know I talked about a lot of different elements, the breath, the body, sounds, imagery, not beating yourself up. Did I mention that? Don't beat yourself up. If you start thinking there's nothing wrong with you, that's the practice of meditation, is noticing that you do that. That's it. Using props, the mala beads, the shell, the mat, and keeping it short and simple and as consistent as you can. And I hope that you see this show up in your life. If this has been helpful to you in any way, please like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know, how has meditation changed your life? What are you looking for in meditation? How do you think any of these concepts resonate for you? Until next time, may you be happy. May you be at peace. May you be well. See you soon.